get rid of my boredom.
Yep. Oh, I'll play a game, I'll listen to a podcast, I'll watch every movie, every TV show that's ever existed. Like,
Yeah, different than it used to be.
it really is.
Good morning. Welcome to the Stochastic.com NBA strategy show. Dave Loughran, Josh Engleman, 6 games today, Thursday. We're almost at the weekend. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see how things go. Happy to have you guys with us. Should be a fun one today for sure. Some interesting spots to break down. A few pieces of injury news that we'll dig into a little bit here. Obviously, it's 10 a.m. on the East Coast, so things will change throughout the day. But, couple spots, Banchero, Isaac, questionable. Walker Kessler, questionable. Brunson, questionable. So may not be, every team with like 5 different injuries, Josh, but I'd say we got a couple spots that are going to be pretty impactful depending on which way they break later tonight.
Yeah, this could end up being a really interesting slate with some of the Q tags that exist. It's a very different slate than what we had yesterday. Like wildly different in comparison to just the way that some of these builds look. We aren't doing the same kind of stuff that we were doing yesterday. Like we don't have those overwhelming value plays. There's no Andre Drummond. There's no, at least Norm Powell for most of the day. A little bit less Norm Powell once we got to lock and he wasn't starting, but very different environment for the exact same size slate.
26 rebounds for Andre Drummond.
Double OT too. Not that like I'm saying that's why he got those rebounds, but like that game also went to double overtime. Yeah. Kobe White played 50 minutes.
It's just insane. Somehow Vooch and Drummond combined for 39 boards on the day. It's just ridiculous.
It's insane.
You're right. There's no Drummond. There's no Davion Mitchell.
Dude, I didn't get to much of him last night.
No. I'm just sad. We talked about it earlier in the day.
Yeah.
I think he only played 15, 16 minutes anyway, but he was, unsurprisingly underwhelming. But
yeah, it didn't shock me in the slightest. That's for sure.
But like if Brunson's out, you have McBride. His price has come up. But also he played 40 minutes in Brunson's absence last game.
Yeah.
40 minutes.
I don't want to play McBride again, even though it like went pretty well because sweating him wasn't a good time. But, you run that back if you can. I really like DiVincenzo today. I really like Josh Hart today. I don't know. It's a weird slate. I don't really know how else to describe it.
Yeah. And I'm sure more things will develop throughout the day. Also, you and I talked about yesterday how we thought it's possible LeBron could sit on the second of a back-to-back today facing the Wizards, and then they've got the Denver Nuggets on Saturday.
Yeah.
And now they had a big come-from-behind win.
He was incredible last night.
Yeah. Dude, they were down 21. I think he had 19 in the fourth or something like that.
And he was involved in every assist. He was
Amazing.
either like hockey assists for him in situations. Like everything went LeBron's way in the second half of that game last night.
Played 37 minutes. Would you be shocked if he doesn't play today? But we don't have him or this Wizards game on the slate. So It doesn't matter. Like the 10 p.m. games aren't here, FanDuel or DraftKings.
Good.
Yeah, I have no issues with that at all.
I'm thrilled they cut it off. This is a perfect little 6-gamer. We're getting exactly what we should get today, which is just another smooth slate. And then tomorrow, no late swap. So 7 o'clock, you don't have to do a damn thing after that.
How big is that slate?
It's short. They shrunk the games. There were a bunch of additional games. They just chose not to use them.
Really?
Yeah.
What, are the contests already up?
Yeah, they posted that one. They posted the main for Friday.
Oh, yeah.
They cut all the late games and stuff off of it.
All right. So 7 games then.
Yeah.
That's nice. It's 6 yesterday, 6 today, 7 tomorrow. I can get used to that.
That's what I'm thinking, man. I'm cool with it.
Yeah. Happy to have you guys with us. If you don't mind, take 1 single second this morning as you're walking in the door. Atone for your sins on this Thursday morning, right here on the Strategy Show. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Goes a very long way for us. And otherwise, I wouldn't ask. Leave a comment down below. Watching after the fact, we got you. We try and read and respond to all of those. Thoroughly enjoy them as well. And if you ever want to listen in podcast form, don't forget it. Whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any other shit platform you use to listen to podcasts. It's out there, baby. You can find it. Look, I'm not deriding your podcast choices. I just don't know
Sounds like
where
you
other
are.
people listen to podcasts outside of Spotify or Apple Podcasts, but people do it apparently.
I mean, I don't use either of those two things,
What do you
but
use?
I use Overcast, but it's, just a different podcast app than Apple Podcasts.
And like everyone uploads their podcasts onto that too.
Yeah, it's no different.
I don't even know Overcast.
It's just an app that gets podcast feeds. It's not like you don't like upload to Overcast.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So why do you use that instead of the others?
Two reasons. Well, one big reason. I like the way that you can change the speed of the podcast,
You
and
can
they
do
have
that on the others.
not as granularly as you can in this one as you can in Apple Podcasts. Same for Spotify. And
Oh, so
then
you
two,
need like 1.35 instead of
they
1.5.
also have a feature that cuts silence. So like in between people's speech, if there's like 2 seconds of dead time before I'm done and you start, it just goes away and you don't notice it. So it shrinks the podcast in terms of like free space that's in it, and then I control the speed. So I can get up to I can listen to a podcast in basically like half the time of normal, but it doesn't have to be like 1.5 times speed.
So I see what you're saying, and maybe I'll check it out, but I feel like I'd hate that
You'd
because
never know you'll never notice it.
so the conversational aspect doesn't feel inorganic because you're cutting out all of the dead space.
It's not so much dead space. I don't know how it does it. Like
You
for
understand what
our
I'm
show, like we
asking,
have
right?
some
It'd be
times
very
where
weird.
we have some times where you and I don't talk for like a couple seconds in these situations. Like it's just a little bit of a pause.
Sure.
For shows like if it's just a two-person literal back and forth conversation, you're barely going to notice it because they don't have space in between their words. It's not like chopping every space, but if there's ever like a 2 or 3 second clip where nothing happens, it just goes away.
Okay.
Which can end up being, on a 30-minute podcast, if that's like a minute of time, we're still talking about like 3 or 4% shorter than it would have been before.
You are
That
getting
adds up, man.
granular. You are getting granular with your podcast
Are you
listening, man.
surprised?
No, fucking podcast snob over here. I had no
Yeah.
idea. I'm not shocked at all, though. If nothing else, I would expect you to do something like that. Be like listening in 1.48 instead of 1.5 and be like, geez, this is a big difference.
Well, no, like you can kind of go to like 1.2 or 1.3, and it'll be the equivalent of like 1.4, 1.5 because of trimming that space.
All right.
Because I don't like going super fast. I like the people that can listen to them at like 2x, those people are psychopaths. I don't get it at all.
Yeah, that's not me. I'm okay. I'm okay. Usually what I do if I'm listening to an audiobook or something, I do 1.2
Yeah.
around. Because if it's like 1.5 or 2, you're not absorbing it. You're not retaining any of that at 2x. So
Right. And it
like
depends how fast the person talks. I tend to talk
that's
pretty slow, which I've been told via tweet yesterday, but I'm perfect for like a 1.5x.
yeah, right. That makes sense. I also talk, my cadence is a lot different depending on what I'm doing. Like if I'm
Sure.
doing a show like this and you're constantly trying to process information and think about where you're going next. But if you're having a conversation, my guess is that it's a different cadence. So either way, 1x us, 2x us, whatever. Use
Yeah.
Overcast or don't.
Just listen. We don't really care how
I was
fast
gonna
you
say
do it.
you can find our podcast anywhere. All right, let's get into it, man. Happy to have you guys here. Let's talk Milwaukee and Charlotte, then we'll get through these 6 games. The Bucks 12-point favorites. This is a home and home series against the Bucks. Against the Hornets. They shit on them last time these two teams faced each other. At no point was this game competitive. 38-point blowout victory. Giannis played 24 minutes in that game, Josh. 24 minutes. So yeah, I had actually, matter of fact, thrown out on the underdog short that I've been doing over on the Odd Shopper channel, Damian Lillard over 6.5, higher than 6.5 assists, finished with 7 in 25 minutes. So you and I say this a lot. A lot of players can get there in limited playing time if they just route the other team. But this Hornets team is terrible.
They are really bad. They're bad at everything too, but their offense being as abysmal as it is really the tricky spot. But as I look at Milwaukee, I find them very difficult to get to. You've got Giannis at 11.3. He's power forward center eligible. He does get to 10% ownership, 11% optimal. I got 8%. Like, I think that's fine. I tend to have Dame projected better than most people. I have him a fantasy point higher than we do. Still can't get him. Like, Charlotte is just so dreadful that it really takes the interest of like the top end out of Milwaukee. They should just handle these guys. So like I don't have 10% of anybody. We have 14% ownership coming into Brook Lopez, 13% optimal. I'm getting to the center on the opposite side of this game, which we'll talk about shortly. But as I look at Milwaukee, I am not excited to go here because once you get past Giannis and Dame, it's like, well, what do I want to do here? Like Bobby Portis, Jay Crowder, Pat Connaughton, like it's a really uneventful team.
It is. And when you're looking at the highest priced options on this slate, you've got Giannis, obviously. Then you have SGA against San Antonio. That'll be an interesting talking point. Wemby against OKC at 10-1 now. KD, maybe Brunson. Curry in that slow pace spot against the Knicks. Maybe people will go, oh, it's at MSG and it's Curry at MSG. DeJounte Murray against Brooklyn in a good spot. There are some there. What I'm saying is you have no Doncic, no Jokic. You have Giannis at 11-3 against the Hornets as a 12-point favorite. Wemby in a difficult spot against OKC. I mean, it's for a 6-gamer, I guess this is kind of what you would expect, but there's not that much at the top.
No, it's like I said, it's way, way, way different than what we were getting yesterday. And it's just like a weird slate. I'm getting to Wemby. I'm light on Shea. I'm neutral to Giannis. I'm very heavy on Jalen Brunson, but who the hell knows if he's even in the game today?
Yeah, we'll know sooner than later. It's like a neck cervical strain or something like that.
His cervix is strained?
Dude, I know. Neck cervical.
Is he dilated?
Listen. I thought the same thing. However, it must mean something.
Yeah, it must mean something.
Oh, his neck pussy hurts.
Yeah. Oh man, that's gonna be convenient. I'd just be sitting at my desk all day being like
he's like Ned from South Park.
Yeah. It's a stoma.
Anyway, I hear you on Milwaukee. It's kind of difficult. By the way, we got there quick today.
That didn't take long at all.
For those of you driving your kids to school or whatever, I apologize. I tried to kind of
God, what's a neck pussy?
I tried to muffle.
I get it.
What's that from where he's like, shall we say muffled?
I don't know.
My voice was, shall we say muffled? I'll have to figure that one out. But Brook Lopez has the highest ownership. I mean, at 15%, $5,700. In some instances, I understand that, but Brook Lopez, just given the makeup of this team, playing alongside Giannis, isn't exactly your traditional big to feast against this Hornets team. I'm not saying he can't do it, but it's not like he's not that kind of archetype of center that you'd love in this spot. You know what I mean?
No, I don't. 14% ownership is a bit more than I'm looking to get here. Now we have him 13.5% optimal, so that looks good. I'm like 2 points lower than us, and I think that's what's stopping me from getting to Brook here. But I'm just apprehensive about this matchup in general for Milwaukee because they just don't need the whole bore. Like they can go so light in this matchup. Charlotte sucks so much.
Yeah. But by the way, the shall we say muffled was actually, it just came to me. It was Gilbert Gottfried at the roast of Roseanne. I think
Okay.
Rosilla.
I don't remember it. I remember Rosilla. I don't remember the muffled line.
Yeah, I'll have to find it. Anyway, on the other side of this one, you've got the Hornets. Look, this is not a good basketball team, but sometimes you're going to get some value here. We had seen a lot of Cody Martin popping up lately. He routinely disappoints. Brandon Miller, 13% today. I'll cut straight to the chase. You said you had interest in Nick Richards today. Is that who you were referring to at 9% ownership?
I've got way more interest in Charlotte. Charlotte's on the good side of this one. I am not concerned with Milwaukee's defense. Is it improved because Doc is there? Yeah. Is it an actual top five defense? No, that's impossible for this Milwaukee team. If you believe that, then they are just as likely to win this NBA title as the Boston Celtics. But they're not. They're not that kind of defense. They don't have that kind of personnel. However, that's not really important to me here. Milwaukee is, we'll call it average-ish defensively. They play at a fast enough pace. Charlotte's at home, so if they're ever going to be a little bit more competitive, it's in this sort of matchup where you don't have to give up an extra 6 points just for playing on the road. I like Trey Mann at 5,400, 10% owned. I'm a bit over the field. I like Nick Richards, 8% owned at 5,500. We don't like him at all. I am much heavier on Nick Richards in this spot. 0.91 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. I think he's more of a fantasy point per minute guy. That is causing me to have him projected by 3 more fantasy points. Maybe this changes throughout the day, but I like getting to Nick Richards, well over that 8% mark. Miles Bridges looks good to me. I'm over the field there. I like Cody Martin at 13% ownership. I'm neutral there. I don't mind getting to Brandon Miller. I don't even really mind getting to Grant Williams. I know this all looks bad for Charlotte, but this is a 6-game slate. I don't hate the prices. And if this one even just slightly stays competitive, you know who's going to play 30-ish minutes or more. I mean, Bridges plays 38 every night. I think Charlotte's a little sneaky today.
All right. I mean, look, I don't hate it. And who knows? They get their minutes. The game doesn't blow out. It's entirely possible. By the way, Chris Middleton's still out. LaMelo Ball's still out, but that was to be expected. 216 total. Really, this is just price plays across the board, right? Like Richards is 5,500, Martin's 49, and there's just not a lot. Somebody had mentioned your stance on Wemby, but look at this now and tell me that this is not a very slate specific context here where you're saying we don't have a ton of value right now. You got a bunch of cheap Hornets players that, if it stays competitive, could get you 30 plus minutes. There's not much more to it than that, really. It's not a good matchup.
It's also a complete, like, every slate is different. You know, it's just like everything changes the moment every other person's salary changes. You're comparing different guys to different rates to different everything. The only 2 guys above him are Shea and Giannis. Like, he's a better per minute performer than both of those dudes now. So we're not comparing. There's no Jokic on this slate for it or anything like that. It's just completely different. So yeah, they're playing. You know, it's an OKC matchup. I don't love that, but we get the Chet Wemby matchup once again. Either way, the summary here: play the Hornets. I don't like saying that.
Yeah, that could end poorly. Utah and Orlando, 226 total. I'm sure you noticed this, by the way, but the first 4 games we talk about are all pretty low totals, you know, given today's NBA landscape. 226, 216, 223, 222. Walker Kessler being questionable here, though, to me is by far just kind of the most interesting element of this game. Because right now, assuming that everybody's in, it doesn't mean that you can't get to some Lauri Markkanen or maybe some Colin Sexton. All of these guys currently pulling like 6 to 9% ownership.
Yeah.
But it definitely becomes more interesting in the event that you don't have Walker Kessler in this game. And I understand that he hasn't been starting, but he still played pretty sizable minutes last game, solid double-double off the bench. What does that do for the rest of this front court now, be it, you know, Taylor Hendricks, John Collins? What are we looking at now if Kessler's just out of the rotation entirely?
I don't think it matters at all.
You don't think it makes a difference at all?
Nope. I think Walker Kessler, if Walker Kessler doesn't play today, they just play Omer Yurtseven in the exact same role.
You think Yurtseven would go in and potentially pick up the same type of minutes that Kessler was getting?
They were starting Yurtseven ahead of Walker Kessler earlier this year.
A long time ago. I'm saying,
he's going to step in and play 16 to 18 minutes, something in that neighborhood. Maybe you give an extra minute or 2 to John Collins. Maybe you start moving guys to the right in the positional spectrum. But I think he soaks up 90 to 95% of whatever Walker Kessler was going to do.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
I would have thought it was less than that. Honestly, I would have looked at it as like 60. But it also depends on Walker Kessler's minutes. He played 19 and then he played 30 last game. And we saw fewer minutes from John Collins.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. No one has that rotational information. Add More Funds doesn't have that game, and it's not on Popcorn Machine.
Popcorn hasn't updated in 2 days for some reason.
Sometimes at least Popcorn Machine still has that data. They
You
don't.
just have to search it.
And just that game, the one that we're trying to find, every other one for that day is there except for that Utah game, because I went to try to find it this morning on the process show to do exactly what we're talking about, and it wasn't there.
Yeah, man, he had Collins did have 4 fouls, so I didn't watch that Utah Atlanta game, but
no.
Anyone that did watch it, I wonder. Oh, it was also a 30-point blowout. So there's a lot of things that could have happened there.
Yeah, like I don't really know why those rotations happened as they were, but I don't think it was. I'm almost positive that it wasn't just, oh, we're giving Walker Kessler minutes now.
Right. I'd like to see if Kessler closed that game out in the blowout too. My guess is he did. My guess is he had to have, but I don't know. Either way, what are you doing with the Jazz today? They're all basically grouped in this same within 3-4% of each other.
I have 12% of Lauri Markkanen, which is a pretty common occurrence for us when we do this show. And then it's just, play whoever you want. As weird as it sounds, I basically don't have any of these guys. I only have 2 lineups with Clarkson. That's the most of anybody else. I'm under the field on all of them. It's a terrible spot. Orlando 5th in defensive rating, 26th in pace. So pace down spot for Utah against a good defense. All these guys are like 5 to 8% owned. That's kind of where they should be. The only guy that I would like to get to is Lauri Markkanen, down to 7,700.
Brian said Collins was awful in the first half, and then S&P said Collins had 4 turnovers in the first 5 minutes, played like garbage. So, yeah. Gabby, Collins turnovers and foul trouble. Yeah, it could probably just a combination of all of that.
Yeah.
Would make
well, they obviously don't care about anything from Collins' performance. I can't imagine it's that, because if they cared about his performance, they'd stop playing him altogether.
Yeah, that's true. Unless it was just so bad out of the gate that it's finally like, all right, we've seen enough. Orlando. Banchero and Isaac. Isaac went from a knee to now an illness. Why are they still listing these as non-COVID illnesses, by the way? That makes 0 sense whatsoever.
Well, COVID is a real thing for everybody. We don't all just ignore it like you.
This is a joke, right? You're about to get that long pause that your fucking overcast can.
No, I don't want to get that long COVID, man.
I know you're trying to bait me, and I'm not taking the bait on this one.
You're not going to take the bait. You're the master baiter.
We're moving. We're moving at a good pace. I will not take the bait here. I will not.
Or the jab.
I will say. I will say that Banchero is questionable, and so is Jonathan Isaac. And go ahead.
I don't have anything. I just realized I didn't switch over to Orlando because I was still getting my my COVID jokes off. Yeah.
Yeah. Banchero's missed a couple of games now. Isaac, who knows what's going on with him? It's less important. But the Banchero news is clearly something that we'll pay close attention to. If he does play, though, like let's assume he's in. We have him projected in 18% ownership right now for Banchero. A good matchup facing Utah on the road. Obviously a pace-up spot for Orlando. FanDuel at 8,400. Banchero's 32%. Isaac getting ownership on FanDuel. Franz Wagner getting 23%. Suggs getting 22%. That is a lot of ownership going to these guys on FanDuel. Looks a whole lot different on DK.
Yeah. This one's kind of interesting. Not sure I agree with some of that ownership on the FanDuel side. Banchero, I agree. I think he looks great. He's 18% owned. I have 14% right now. If he's in, he looks good. We have him 17% optimal. No complaints. Franz Wagner, 17% owned. I have 14%. We have him at 14% optimal. Feels great. Happy to be neutral there. Suggs, we have him 14% optimal, 12% owned. I have 12%. Feel great there. You ready to do this one? I think it's Markelle Fultz season today, and I think he's going to get I think right now he's getting aggressively slept on. 2% owned. I have 20 if that holds. I don't think it holds. But Markelle Fultz, last time out. See his minutes?
This was in his return from from
No,
that extended absence, or
next
yes.
game.
Okay, then 25 minutes. Yeah. So he missed he missed a game following the All-Star break, I believe. Then yeah, 12 minutes against Atlanta, 25 against Brooklyn.
If he can play 25, he's playing 24 today. Like I don't see any reason he would go back down into like sub 20. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him go right back into the starting spot that he had prior to leaving again. I went 24 minutes. He's 4K, point guard only, a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy. I think he's a really interesting value option in this spot against Utah because if they're willing to play him 24 and a half minutes in that situation, like I understand that Banchero and Isaac aren't in, but if they're still willing to play him, but also play Caleb Houston 31 minutes and Anthony Black 22 minutes and Chuma Okeke can get 5, like I think we just know now that Markelle Fultz can play 24 minutes in a game.
Yeah, if he can, then at 4K, especially with what we know now, the lack of value, that looks pretty good. I'll add to this too. The Utah Jazz, the worst defensive rating in basketball on the road this season. Been pretty rough for them, for sure. Yeah. Also top 10 in pace away from home too. It makes for a really good matchup for Orlando. An Orlando team that plays at a crawling pace. So
By the way, I'm expecting to bring Fultz's minutes down to like 22 as the day goes on. Just putting that out there. But I think he's sneaky to be able to just play more. And I think that's sort of like the thing that I want everybody to like keep in the back of their head.
All right. Yeah, 22 to 24. I think it seems reasonable. You're getting him.
It would be really weird for me if he played like 16. That like I wouldn't understand why any of that would be happening. Now, if Banchero is out, then I certainly feel a lot better about him continuing to stay out there as a creator. But I don't like that was also a very weird game. Suggs played 16 minutes. Like I believe he got dinged up a little bit. I mean, like it's Caleb Houston playing 31 minutes. He shot the shit out of the ball early and ended up being like a decent value option. So I've got my eye on Fultz as something different. I think Franz, Suggs, and Banchero just look like really solid options today.
Yeah, and in that game they also just trashed Brooklyn too. So
who doesn't?
The Grizzlies. That's the only one.
Fair.
The only one. But yeah, they've been getting
the kryptonite.
Yeah, they've been getting crushed lately. Atlanta and Brooklyn. All right. So DeJounte, look, we both said this was going to actually know where we at. Golden State, New York Knicks. Sorry. Golden State. We'll get to that Atlanta game next. Andrew Wiggins is out today. This game, 223 total. Feels like the Knicks are playing every day right now.
It really does.
Right? It's not just me. I think they've definitely played 3 and 4. But now you've got Golden State coming into Madison Square Garden, garnering essentially 0 ownership. Like Draymond Green getting a spattering of ownership. Aside from that, like Curry's at 1% today against the Knicks.
You know what else got a spattering of something yesterday?
I'm not. You gonna tell people what you did?
No. But I had to get that in there. I had to get that in there. Golden State, lowest owned team on the entire slate. The Knicks are second, which is going to be pretty scary when I flip over to here and figure out how much Knicks I have, because I assume I'm jamming. Yep, I am. I have 4% of Jonathan Kuminga. I don't have another Warrior. I don't really see how you get to anybody here unless you're like, I want to play Curry in the Garden. That's it.
What I was
they
saying
look
earlier.
awful. They look
That's
awful.
What I'm saying earlier is that there will be some people that go Curry at Madison Square Garden. But I mean, the guy, it's not his first rodeo. It isn't his first time at Madison.
He played 30 games there.
Right. Right. So, I mean, if that's the narrative we're running with here, I've got a bridge to sell you. But I'll tell you, we know one thing about the Knicks. Very, very, there are some things we don't know about the Knicks, such as Jalen Brunson's status for today, which is significant. We know OG and Randall are out, but the one thing we do know is that whoever gets the nod, if Brunson's out, McBride, probably going to play 40 minutes. And then you've just got guys like Hart again that are, I said this to you the other day when we talked about the Knicks. Like if there's one element of Josh Hart where I say, oh, I see he's getting ownership. He's not a particularly amazing per minute guy. Dude, coming back from the All-Star break, these are his minutes. 40, 42, 42, 44. It's insane. He's playing the whole game.
Well, I hope he does it again today because I have 24% of him and 11% ownership. I gave him 39 minutes. So did we. I'm a little bit loftier on my projection, but I'm cool with it. I like this spot against Golden State. Defense is average. They play much faster than New York. New York gains over a possession for just this matchup in general. Brunson's the guy that I want though. 9,600. We're talking about a guy with when all these dudes are out, we're talking about a guy with like a 35% usage rate, a 35% assist rate. His points prop is north of 30 real points. I have him 5 fantasy points ahead of us. So I might be a little heavy on Brunson. I don't really think I am based on where I see the prop market, however. Maybe that has moved. Let's take one quick peek. Jalen Brunson's points prop right now at FanDuel Sportsbook is 30.5 juice to the over. I have 31.3. His assist prop right now, 7.5 juice to the under. I have 7.3. I think Jalen Brunson is one of the best plays on today's slate. If he's 9% owned, I have 32. I'm going to get to a ton of Brunson here. And then I like DiVincenzo at 2% ownership. Is that price tag very, very tough to want to get to? Yeah, 7,500 is a big number. I like him as a GPP play in this spot. 1.04 DraftKings points per minute over the last 30 days. I don't want to sleep on that at shooting guard small forward on a 6-gamer.
Jalen Brunson, 9,600. How would you compare him to the other high-priced options today? That would be my biggest question looking at these guys.
He's the guy I have the most of right now.
He is?
Yeah.
How much did you say you have?
32.
32%. Jordan, what do we have in the Sims run?
Got to be way less than me.
Yeah, 3% right now. We don't have much Knicks at all right now. Of course, all of this is subject to change.
Yeah.
Pierre Hines, welcome to Team Stochastic, brother. How much Golden State were we getting, Jordan? I would assume, and just
It's got to be 0.
Tell me since we're on a delay. We have 0. Okay, so this game currently with this first Sims run then, Josh, but you already knew that you were going to be, above the field significantly here.
I did.
Getting very little of this game in general. So I meant to ask you this earlier, Jordan. I'm sure you already have this because you looked at it. What's the highest exposed team we have then right now throughout these games that we've talked about? Because it was Milwaukee, Charlotte, Utah, Orlando. I'm guessing it's probably Orlando right now, Josh.
Mine's Charlotte. Orlando is the highest owned team of anybody we've talked about, though.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
We didn't talk about them yet.
Yeah, didn't hit on them yet. We will, though.
Yeah. So, by the way, I'm also getting to a lot of Brooklyn Nets. They are my most exposed team, so we're getting there.
All right. Yeah, thanks. Long time viewer, time to join the team. Hell yeah. And if you guys, as always, want to join this, if you guys want to join the Sims or a lineup generator, get in the Discord, any of that stuff, you know where to find it. Links in the description and in chat. We had that such an awesome tweet from, we have I could throw stuff up all the time. Like, oh, Greg won again, or Tom Kennedy, our CEO, won again. But I'd much prefer to throw things up like Ben P from yesterday, where it was like, hey, I was skeptical of the Sims and abandoning my process. And then I finally got it. And then he turned like $50 into 1,500 in a night or something like that.
Yeah.
That type of
That's
stuff
the
is
best.
just, yeah, that's the type of stuff you enjoy seeing for sure. And we've seen a lot of that lately. Whether it's like in the fadeaway or the mini max or any of these 4-point play smaller contests, the Sims have been doing their job. Same with the lineup generator. And late swap is going to play a role in something, not tomorrow, but in a lot of these slates like tonight, where you can just plug your lineups in and you can, in 2 minutes, get all of your lineups, no matter how many you have, just update it quickly, running the Sims through it again, optimizing all of those lineups. What a time saver, what a difference maker. Because there's one thing that people, I feel most people know, a lot of people are new, don't know. The one massive advantage to NBA DFS is late swap.
It's huge.
It's a mass, and some people like it, some people don't. If you don't like it, it's because of the time commitment. But when you minimize the time commitment it makes things a whole lot different. If you're not around to late swap, you shouldn't be bothering playing NBA.
For the most part, yeah, well, like you're just doing yourself a disservice. Like I want you to not be around. I want you to play DFS and not be around. That's better for me. That would be exactly what I want you to do. So you should want to do the opposite, which is be around. You're only hurting yourself if you don't want to swap your stuff. Like you're just you're putting yourself behind the eight ball by not paying attention to future news. And it's now easier than ever to deal with it.
Yeah, man. Anyway, link in the description and in chat. You ever have questions, hit me up. My DMs are open on Twitter. I say it every day. Greg's done great tutorials. If you sign up, please watch those tutorials. They'll go 30 minutes later, you'll be like, oh, I totally get how to use this tool and I understand why it's so impactful, right? Like just watch those for sure. They're right here on YouTube and they're on the Sims page. If you just wanted to check it out, you can do a week, a month, all access now too. If you rock the stochastic avatar, you get a huge discount every single month, not 1 month, every single month. Or if you said, you know what, I want to use the tools, but I don't want to pay for that right now. Lineup generator, baby. That'll get you there as well. Phenomenal tool. Josh talks about it frequently. I know during the process show as well.
Sure
Just
do.
like the best entry level tool out there, but also giving you great lineups and generating like 100,000 lineups and then taking only the top 1% and feeding them to you. And then you can see how optimal everything is, what the ownership is, what the optimal projection, lock players, swap players, upload it straight to CSV. And then once you save your lineups, all of your exposures are right there. So really cool tool for sure. And it'll get you in at a cheaper price depending on what you want to do. Anything else for Golden State or the Knicks?
Nope, not for me. Those three guys that I mentioned, DiVincenzo, Brunson, and Hart, are the only guys I'm getting to. Now, if Brunson's out, we start looking at Miles McBride again. Maybe we roll the dice on Alec Burks again. But McBride, assuming he steps into the starting lineup, call it 0.75 fantasy points per minute. We got him last time out for 40 minutes. Clearly, we're not going to project that. So if we go 0.75, let's say we give him, see, we can give him 33. That's 25. We'll call him 25 fantasy points. That's 5x. You know, he'll look like a decent enough option. And you can play with those numbers a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to project him for 36, I wouldn't hate it, honestly.
No.
It's just the nature of that team. These guys are getting huge, huge minutes. Plus, it's not just like, oh, only the big time starters get it. It didn't matter who was rotating in and out of that starting lineup. They were all getting big minutes. You know? What are we doing with this Atlanta team? DeJounte Murray's price point has come up. He's $9,400 on DraftKings now. On FanDuel, you're looking at DeJounte Murray priced at $8,800. So that is a big difference. He's pulling 26% ownership, point guard, shooting guard on FanDuel. On DraftKings, he's pulling sub 5% ownership at $9,400 and point guard only. Big, big difference here.
Completely different dude.
Yeah.
Between these two sites. Player. No, like I don't have a single share of him on DK. I think most of this Atlanta team looks pretty tough to get to. I took the under on Jalen Johnson on Prize Picks today. By the way, that line has already moved down one. So I was all over it, as I usually am. That one got dropped in our premium Discord. So if you're waiting around for the video, you're probably dead in the water for it. But if you get it in Discord, you can move quickly. 15% ownership coming into Clint Capella. We saw his minutes start to creep up last time out. Wouldn't be surprised if they creep up again. I do have 16% Capella. We have 17% ownership coming into Bogdanovic. He does have the most negative leverage on the team. I only have 6% here. I got a couple shares of Sadiq Bey, but this is like not a very good spot for Atlanta. And with these prices climbing now, I find them very difficult to want to get to with any sort of volume.
Yeah. It's a far cry from what we saw recently with this team after Trae Young went out. It's just a different team now. But FanDuel, just to touch on this for a second, Bogdanovic, 6,600 shooting guard, small forward. Murray, point guard, shooting guard. Fernando's even getting 15% power forward, center. It's not just different in Murray. It's a different team over there in a lot of aspects on FanDuel. Like they look pretty good. And let's not ignore the fact that this is a good matchup against a bad Brooklyn team that's just getting shit on lately.
Well, so like it is and it isn't, but because like they don't play at like a particularly great pace. and they do definitely lean more defense than offense. That's the only downside to playing Brooklyn. They're like, it is good because they haven't been good, but they're kind of like better in the things that make things worse for DFS.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, right? It's not the Pacers, right? Which are
Yeah.
kind of just optimal in that sense.
Spurs too in that scenario.
Yeah, that's true. But they've still just been getting bludgeoned, man.
Well, I would rather play all of the Brooklyn Nets like the ownership says to do. Four dudes 20 to 20 or 20 to 30% owned. Three dudes at 20% owned. Mikal Bridges at 30, Cam Johnson at 30. I have 74% of Cam Johnson, 40 of Bridges, 26 of Claxton, in the teens for Lonnie Walker and Dennis Schroeder. I assume we're getting Ben Simmons back today, but Brooklyn, because they get to play Atlanta, the dead last defense, number 3 pace team, the Nets are the team to get to today, which, based on everything that we were just saying about how shitty they are, doesn't make you feel better. The two teams I have the most of, Charlotte Hornets, Brooklyn Nets. Should be a real fun night for me today.
Wait,
What a leap day.
You assume we're getting Ben Simmons back or back into the starting lineup?
I don't think it matters, but back.
Well, he played last game.
No, he sat the last game, didn't he?
No. He played, but
no, he sat the last game.
I thought Simmons played off the bench.
Nope. Didn't play.
Really?
You're thinking of the game before that.
The Memphis game?
I don't know. The 26th.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So he played off the bench in that Memphis game.
Yeah. I think he's just playing 20 minutes, really, one way or the other.
And then sat the second of a back-to-back.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, you don't think it matters for Schroeder? If Ben Simmons plays off the bench, he's essentially Claxton's direct backup.
Depends how they run him. Sometimes they run him just beginning of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, beginning of the third, beginning of the fourth, and then he's like playing alongside of him a little bit, and then just the only guy out there. But now that we have Day'Ron Sharpe
what I'm saying is the last
Day'Ron Sharpe is the direct backup to Nick Claxton now. When I say direct, I mean not that they're splitting 48, but
gotcha. Yeah, I guess. All right. By the way, I'm not saying that Simmons makes a big difference, in most places.
Like I gave him 20 minutes. I don't really care how they if they come in the first, like if they come as a starter or as a bench guy.
Yeah. Favorite options here, if you were to just top down from an ownership perspective.
Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges. Bridges is down to 7K because he's been so bad lately. 0.87 DraftKings points per minute. If you want to know why his price is so low, that's the reason why. He's just not that guy. He's a fantasy point per minute dude. And that's even better in a matchup against Atlanta. You get that price tag, you get guard forward eligibility. This is a guy that probably would have been really low owned like 4 years ago because he's been playing bad. And now everybody knows and all the data knows and Sims know that like, nope, that's just when you roster him. And that's why you see the ownership come back up. And then Cam Johnson, assuming his minutes are going to hold from where we were before. He had 29 last time out. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But like, I think the idea of him playing a little bit more with Cam Thomas out makes sense. Cam Johnson then is my second favorite option. Only 4,900. Doesn't take a lot to pay that off on today's slate.
By the way, to chat, I was not at any point suggesting you play Ben Simmons. I was saying Ben Simmons in the starting lineup. Does that affect Dennis Schroeder?
I don't think that it does in any real way. They seem to just play Dennis Schroeder like 27 or 28 minutes, no matter what he's doing, off the bench.
And then DSJ just gets the biggest haircut here.
Yeah.
Someone would have to with Sharpe back in the rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just a lot of moving parts. I think their grand totals for minutes are sort of like what you want them to be. How they get there is just sort of like a different path every day, especially with a team that sucks so much. Like they're probably making changes.
Yeah, fair enough. OKC. All right. Let's talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder here on the road against the Spurs, 11-point favorites. 23% going to SGA on FanDuel. He's 11-4 there. On DraftKings, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh, 21%. So pretty similar, 10-7. He's just Mr. Robotic at this point. He's so consistent. It's a great spot, a good matchup. As far as totals go, highest total on the slate at 236. If I had to guess, they have the highest implied total as well. I would think it's even higher than Milwaukee.
Higher than Phoenix.
Phoenix, right. Yeah, that's right. So what's it at?
I got it at 123.8,
Okay.
and I had Phoenix at 121. This was, when I grabbed these lines at 6 o'clock in the morning, so your mileage may vary.
Yeah,
But
I don't know.
close.
I was talking about Milwaukee's a huge favorite, but their total isn't even that high.
Yeah, they can't run that down because of how low the game total is.
Yep. Yep. 123.5 though for OKC today. You said you're underweight on SGA.
I am. I don't want to be though.
Yeah. I would assume a lot of that's a result of getting to a lot of Brunson. And you're
Yeah,
also getting to Wemby, you said?
I am, which we'll get to. Yeah, I have 10% of Shea, 22% owned, 22% optimal. I don't want to tell anybody anything other than like he looks fantastic. I got him at 1.55 DraftKings points per minute, 31 and a half points, 6.5 assists, 5.5 boards. Like he looks really good. I think his ownership being the highest of everybody up here is, from a guard perspective, is just causing me to get a little bit different. I'm actually like, I have 20% of Devin Booker. He's 6% owned. I think I'm just pivoting a little bit off of Shea right now. If Brunson ends up out, I would imagine I just get Shea then, because he looks like the best option by far for OKC. 24th ranked defense in San Antonio, fourth in pace. But I'm actually not getting to much of OKC at all. I didn't get to any of Jalen Williams. That matches our boom bust tool. 7% optimal, 15% owned. I didn't get to any. I do have some Lou Dort, who we have neutral, 10% optimal, 10% owned, of 6% Giddy, which is uninteresting, 6% Chet, which I'd kind of like to get a little bit more. We have him 14% optimal, but 17% ownership is a little heavy. Ultimately, like, I'm happy to get to anything from the Oklahoma City Thunder starters. I just don't happen to be getting it like that.
I understand it. It's tough because it's such a good spot for them. This is like if you look at the best matchups on this slate, definitely Milwaukee against Charlotte, but that's kind of a tough team to get to. It's also a really, really low total in that game. Orlando against Utah is a fantastic matchup. Golden State and Knicks kind of a wash, but those minutes are going to make a difference for the Knicks. You look at OKC, and then you got Phoenix and Houston. You look at OKC, you can't say that, this isn't one of, if not the best matchup as far as opponent goes on the whole slate.
It is. It really is. It's fantastic. And like, this is just like Atlanta and Brooklyn. The good side of the matchup is OKC. I have all of the San Antonio right now. This is my second most exposed team. They're the second most owned team. This whole slate feels like it's backwards.
Is this really just coming down to a pricing thing? Like, how much does your exposure change today if we get two big value plays pop up?
A lot, I think.
Yeah, and you might end up getting more of this OKC team and getting more of some of these other higher priced good teams and quality matchups.
I hope it happens because I don't like some of the guys that I have to play for value. Like 48% of $4,900 Keldon Johnson is in my lineups right now. 64% of Trey Jones, 22% of Wemby, 22% of Sohan, around 10 for Devin Vassell. We've got Wemby, Vassell, Keldon Johnson, and Sohan all in the teens. Trey Jones gets up to 23%. They all look good. Like, the defensive matchup is shit against OKC, but they are seventh in pace. So you do get that. And it's in San Antonio, should be more competitive. And we get to, I mean, if you're watching a game today, folks, make sure you're watching Wemby versus Chet. That's going to be the most fun experience out of everything else that I see for today's slate. I don't want to watch any other game other than this one. But yeah, I have an overwhelming amount of San Antonio because I think this is where the value is. Sohan's 5,100, Keldon Johnson's 4,900, Trey Jones is 5K. We don't have everybody all the way at the bottom. This is sort of the low end right now. And I think that's why we're seeing these guys have ownership and double digit optimal rates right now.
Man, we should just not go live on playback until 8:30. Go take a break and then just come back at 8:30. Grab a couple beverages of choice or whatever it is you've been doing now that you're on the carnivore diet and blowing your hole out. We should come back at 8:30 and just watch some of that game instead on playback. That'd be fun.
It looked like a Jackson Pollock.
That would be fun. It's an 8:30 game though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to do anything that you just said. I'm going to let you know that right now.
I know you're not. I'm saying it would be fun if we
I
did.
was on till 9 last night.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, Greg bailed. I went solo for like 5 minutes, and then Rinpack hopped on with me.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, he's like, "Yo, can I hop on?" I was like, "Absolutely. Let's chat it up." He was building like night slate lineups and stuff.
Nice. Yeah, well, that's kind of must watch here. This Chet versus
Yeah,
Wemby.
yeah,
Be on playback tonight, right after live before lock. If you're not there yet, that link's in the description. It's free. It's just a way to sign up. Entirely
it's
free.
fun.
Yeah, yeah. We sweat the games, throw out bets, late swap, DFS sweats, everything. Prize picks, underdog cards, you name it. Top to bottom, man. It's a lot of fun. Plus, we give out VIP passes. So if you don't have league pass, because at playback, we're all watching the games together at the same time, and there's no lag, there's no delay. So like when Josh or I say something or Greg says something, you hear it immediately, unlike YouTube. And so like our reactions or anyone's reactions to a game is right there. And there's a chat. Like it's just a really, really cool platform. So that you don't have to pop in every night. But if there's nights where you're like, you know what, I'm gonna hang out, I'm watching the games anyway, come join us in playback. It's 100% free. And if you have League Pass, just link yourself up to it. And if you don't, we can give out a bunch of VIP passes, other subscriptions as well. So yeah, fun stuff, man.
Hell yeah.
Top three plays from this game before we wrap it up with Houston and Phoenix. Is it all
Trick
Spurs?
for me, it is. No, it's not. It's for me. I'm gonna give you four: Trey Jones, Wemby, Keldon Johnson, and Shea.
Okay. We're getting 37% of Shea in that first run, by the way.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. 37% SGA in the Sims run. And and then 45% Wemby, 30% Trey Jones, 23% Keldon Johnson, 19% Sohan.
Yeah,
Jeez, dude. That's a lot. That's horrifying.
it
But
is.
it makes sense. Houston and Phoenix. Let's wrap this one up. Put a bow on it. Suns
Yeah,
8.5-point favorites, 234 total. The two pieces of injury news here: Bradley Beal, and Eric Gordon questionable for Phoenix. Everyone appears good to go for Houston. We can kick it off on this Rocket side. So right now, what is it? 10:53 a.m.
yeah,
Fred VanVleet is getting a lot of ownership.
yeah.
Whenever I see that, I feel uncomfortable.
You
We have him
shouldn't.
in what's that?
You shouldn't.
Why?
This isn't the spot to feel uncomfortable for Fred VanVleet
It's
having
not about the
ownership.
spot. It's not about any of that. It's just Fred VanVleet. Look, he has 27% optimal percentage.
Look at his
So it's
price.
6,600. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, listen, totally
He was
understand.
7,800 on January 27th.
Yeah, which is egregious. But
He was mid 8Ks for most of this season. And
yep.
spoiler alert, he's still playing like 36 minutes a night.
Yeah, you don't really have much recourse here. I mean, you're going to be getting to some Fred VanVleet.
Yeah,
Right?
it's a broken price tag.
It is. He's also the type of guy that can just destroy your night. And that's why I say it's uncomfortable. Not that he's not the right play, but did Fred like last game, 36 minutes, 5 points, 15 DraftKings points.
Yeah.
Like Fred VanVleet can just completely disappear at times. He's one of the more anomalous players in the league. You know what I'm saying? It's odd.
Sure. Yeah, he's the last game that he played though, where he hit the value you need today, 3 games ago, 42.75 DraftKings points against the Phoenix Suns.
Yep. Yeah, 37 minutes.
Yeah.
I get
So we're
it.
doing that.
We're
also doing the Dylan Brooks experience today.
Doesn't make me less uncomfortable though, I'll tell you that much.
I'm over on Dylan Brooks right now. We have him with the biggest negative leverage number, but I have 28%, 4,400 shooting guard, small forward. This is the perfect matchup for Dylan Brooks. Like you play Dylan Brooks because he's a perimeter defender. Well, if you want perimeter defenders out there, it's going to be in matchups with Beal and Booker and Kevin Durant. That's exactly what this game is made for. So I am getting to Dylan Brooks. And then I'm getting over the field on Alperen Şengün. I have 20%. He's 10% owned. Hasn't been outstanding lately. I don't hate this matchup at all. 8,600 for Şengün. I have 20 to 25% ownership on all three of those guys right now. And then I don't have anything else for Houston. I'm a believer in that negative leverage for Jalen Green. We have him negative 8.5% leverage, 8% optimal, 17% owned. I got the 2% there. Give me Van Vliet, give me Brooks, give me Şengün.
Yeah, we have Green as the most negatively leveraged play for Houston today. Let's see who
I agree.
Take a guess who the most negative. You looking at our boom bust tool, which by the way, you do the Sims package, whether it's like Sims Data or Sims Max or a week or a month. It's not just the Sims; it's the lineup generator, it's Discord, the boom bust tool, ownership, player, every it gives you access to every single tool on the site. So if you're wondering, where we're finding all this or what we're talking about, you have access to all of that. So Jalen Green's second most negative leverage on the entire slate. Jalen Williams is third. Who do you think has the worst or most negative leverage on the slate?
I have no idea.
Cameron Johnson.
Okay. Could see it.
It's probably just because he's cheap and he's getting 32% ownership and there's no good value out there. But it is what it is. Phoenix Suns. You have Beal and Gordon in right now?
I do.
All right. Well, then if that's the case.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then I mean, Nurkic is coming off an absolute explosion.
So am I.
Yeah, Jordan and I are well aware. 18, 22, and 7 last game for Nurkic. One of the more unheralded passing big men in the league as well.
Yeah.
37 minutes. But how do you project this guy's minutes right now?
You don't.
You can't.
You give him 27 and you walk away. -9 leverage right now. I got to 2%. He's 22% owned. I'm never going to take a 22% owned Nurkic when he's priced correctly.
It's a problem. As good as he is a great per minute producer. Like hands down, fantastic fantasy point per minute player. But you just routinely run the risk of him playing 24, 25 minutes. And like, yeah, 27 makes the most sense. But last game, as far as playing time goes, and then I know he missed that game after that, right? I think he missed the game after that. What are we looking at here? Like that seems like
he missed the game before it.
And then played okay.
Yeah. You've got him and Ben Simmons mixed up.
I think I do. Yeah, I definitely
They look a lot alike.
Yeah, true. Massive outlier though, as far as minutes played for Yusuf Nurkic in that last game.
Yeah. I mean, if you're ever going to play him more, like obviously no Beal, no Gordon, like, like you kind of like you're playing different guys and you're really consolidating your talent. But if you're ever going to play Nurk a couple extra minutes, Alperen Şengün is a decent enough guy to do it against if you're a fan of trying to get to Nurk today. I like Booker. I think he's sneaky at 6% owned. Gets you away from some of that heavier ownership at the top. 9,200. Hasn't been great lately. 1.17 DraftKings points per minute. I have his standard a little bit higher than that. I do have a small amount of Kevin Durant, but for right now, I'm getting to Booker as a GPP play. I don't necessarily know if that holds till the end of the day.
What about Bol Bol?
What about him?
I'm asking you, man.
Nah.
No?
Well, it depends who plays. I think getting Bradley Beal back is going to have an impact on Bol Bol's minutes. So if these guys are at full strength today with Beal and Gordon, then you're not playing Bol Bol. If you get them both out again, then we could start having a little bit of a conversation about what that looks like at 3,900 power forward center. For right now, if you assume everybody's in, I am not a believer in him getting 20 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, 27 and 24 over the last two. Could pop up as actually good value if those guys are out because he's 3,900.
The first game of that is no Beal, no Nurkic. The other game is no Beal, no Gordon, and I don't know why, but they didn't play Thad Young in that one, but they didn't play Thad Young in that one. So
So he had 24 minutes with Nurkic on the floor in that last one, in a game that Nurkic played 37 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like he can't play center in the league, so he's a
But
four.
It is funny seeing him alongside Nurkic in that front.
It's funny seeing him alongside Kevin Durant, just
Durant too, right?
All arms and bones.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that.
That one's tricky. To me, he's going to be live if we get those guys out. If those guys are all in, though, I just don't see how you trust those minutes. No matter how he plays across like 2 games and stuff, ultimately he's still bowl. And I think you see him settle into that like 14 or 15 range that he had for the first 2 weeks of February.
Yeah, makes sense. North of a fantasy point per minute guy, though, maybe even 16 minutes from Bol could be viable today. Unlikely, but probably not. There's not a lot of good value. We can wrap it up with this. No. Instead of positions, let's go tiers. So favorite top tier plays today, we'll go 10K and up. It's got to be Wemby, right? I mean,
it is. For me, it's Wemby.
9K range.
Do we want to just do each salary tier?
Let's do it. But I mean, it's going to be Brunson, but yes.
Right? For me, it is Brunson. 8Ks for me right now is Şengün. I think you can make a very good case for either Banchero or Bridges, though. I don't have a lot of separation between them.
7K?
Mikal Bridges.
Looking at this 6K range right now. I mean, there's Van Vliet in there.
Van Vliet and Claxton?
Yeah, Claxton. Bogdanovich on FanDuel at 6,600.
5K? Trey Jones, Trey Mann, Nick Richards.
All right, 4K is where it starts to get interesting.
Cam Johnson, Keldon Johnson. It's a lot of Johnson.
It is. Is there anything sub 4K right now?
Lonnie Walker.
Yeah?
Yeah. He's 21% owned.
I know. I guess he's the only one.
He is the only guy that I have in more than 2 lineups.
How many
2 shares of Jay Crowder.
How many minutes are you projecting Lonnie Walker for?
20.
19? 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just goes to show the dearth of value on this slate for sure. Anyway, appreciate you guys hanging out. We'll wrap it up tomorrow. What do we say? 7 games tomorrow to take us into the weekend? Not bad. Shout out to Jordan Klein producing. Follow Josh at Josh Engleman, me at Lafayette_D. Deeper dive live before lock tonight. Come join us on Playback. Links to everything in the description, including the Sims lineup generator, whatever it is you want. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you back here for the next one. NBA Strategy Show right here on the YouTubes. Peace.